the name Fred Cheluba followed him with a panga. Inside this place, all captured in CCTV, and would slice him 6 times, leaving him to beg for his life.
So this man committed a very heinous crime and ran away. For 2 years, he thought he had gotten away with it. But every day they say it's for the thief, and one day it's for the owner. In Kigumu, Murang'a County, Kenya, there was a man named Paul Njuguna. Paul was 64 years old in 2022. He was a retired public health officer and lived with his wife and 2 daughters. He had a son from a previous relationship, but the son did not live with him. Paul also had a farm, a big one in his compound. And in this farm, his wife and children usually helped out. However, the kids start going to school, they're not usually around, they're all focusing on their lives. And I think his wife also had her own thing doing, which started making the farm less attended to. And so Paul decided to hire a farmhand, somebody to help him in this farm. And that was when he decided to employ a man named Fred. So Fred was a former motorcycle rider, so this was a step up for him. Not only did he get the job to work in Paul's farm, he also got an accommodation for himself, his wife, and I think his child at the time. Now, there was also a 12-year-old boy that usually comes to Paul's house. He's more like a family friend, you know, one of those kids in the neighborhood that comes to play around this man's house and is familiar with the family, and they let him in, and he's, you know, probably comes to watch TV, do some dishes, eat some food, play, and he's fine by Paul and the rest of the family. At the same time, Fred is settling in. He's getting used to the farmland. He's trying to find his way around the new job that is different from his previous one. But the only problem is Fred had a different plan. In his mind, he was already sizing up Paul. The job was not in his head. Paul seemed to be well-to-do, and that was where his mind was at. He did not care for the farm, nor did he care for the job. And so on the 13th of September in 2022, Fred knew Paul was going to be alone by himself. He knew that this is a time that all the daughters would not be around and his wife would not be around. And this was an opportunity for him to do what he had in mind from the very first day he got the job. He had planned to kill Paul and rob him. But there was one obstacle: the 12-year-old boy that usually comes to Paul's house, play around, hang around, and just be there. That little boy was unpredictable because he could come at any time. So as Fred is planning his tactic, he had pretty much prepared for his wife and children to go somewhere else and wait for him. He had transported them to go far away because he knew what he wanted to do. The only problem was the 12-year-old boy just suddenly showed up. And so Fred came up with an idea. He called this little boy, gave him money, and told him to go and buy something that he knew was very scarce in the neighborhood, something that would require him to walk a very far distance. And the little boy fell for it. He took the money and went on the errand in another neighborhood, far from where he was, to go and look for what Fred had asked him to get. And once the little boy left the house, Fred knew he did not have much time. He picked up a machete, went into the house, followed Paul behind, as CCTV footage would have it, into the kitchen. Paul did not think much of it. He just thought maybe this man wanted food. Before he could turn to the pot and turn around, Fred had struck him and attacked him with the machete. When Paul was struck down, Fred left the kitchen but locked it from the outside, keeping Paul inside there to fight for his life. After attacking Paul, Fred went upstairs into Paul's bedroom to wear his clothes. He changed into new clothes that belonged to Paul, went to wash the bloodstains off his hands, abandoned the machete there, took a moment for himself before stealing the television, his money, and other valuables that were in the house. He even went to the garage and stole a motorcycle that belonged to the family. And it was that motorcycle he used to carry all the things that he stole, and ran away from Paul's house to wherever his wife and children were waiting for him. That was the last time anyone saw Fred. Few hours later, the 12-year-old boy returns to the house and sees the chaos. He hears a noise coming from the kitchen. He goes to open it, where he sees Paul barely breathing. Paul is in his last breath. Paul tells this little boy to call for help, and the boy quickly ran out to call for help. By the time help came, Paul had already died from the injuries he had sustained from the machete wounds. The police and family members were called and an investigation started. Fred's ID card was found in the house where he was given for the walk. He was very careless with his ID card because the outfit he wore to kill Paul was where he had placed the ID card. So when he took it off, to wear Paul's clothes. He dropped the clothes there, and that was where they searched it and saw his identity card. So now they know who they are looking for. If he had gone with that ID card, it may have been difficult to know who he was, because I'm sure when these farm hands are being employed, not enough background check is done. They don't get to fill a lot of file or documents. It's one of those domestic work that you just employ anybody that says they need it. But the thing is, lucky for Paul, they had CCTV footages in the house that pretty much showed the whole incident. Fred was looked for months. They searched for him and they couldn't find him. There was a chance he probably wasn't even from that county. After Paul's death, his family, went about sharing his properties. His older son did not want to fight with the stepsisters. They had a disagreement with how the property was going to be shared. But, it didn't matter, because I think somehow, some way it was resolved. Fred remained a wanted person, but nobody knew where he was and nobody knew how to find him. For 2 years, they hadn't seen him. If it was Nigeria, the case would have been gone. I don't think the police would have continued searching, unless the family kept pushing, because of seeing one where they were eventually caught. However, the police never stopped looking for Fred. After 20 months of hiding, on the 10th of June 2024, Fred was caught and arrested while trying to apply for the job of a security man in Kayambu County, a different county altogether. And when applying for this security job, they will do a background check on you. You would have to submit your ID card, your name, your pictures. And I don't think Fred realized this. And when he submitted his document to apply for this security job, a background check was run on him, and they realized that this is the man that they've been looking for the past 2 years. He was invited for the interview, and that was how he was caught and put in handcuffs. His case is still in court. It's not clear if he has admitted. I doubt. I'm sure he will plead not guilty and claim that somebody else came to the house. That is an argument though, but thank God for CCTV footage. They saw him with the cutlass, and so he can't even get away with his escapee story. Just an unfortunate thing for Paul. If he had done a background check, there's still a possibility that they would have seen that this man may have done this kind of crime before. I don't think Paul was his first victim, and him going to apply for the job of a security man, to me, he's going to do it again. Because let me tell you people something. Some of the most household domestic workers to be wary about are your maid, the people who clean your house, cook your food, live and take care of your children. Those people are the ones you have to be worried about. Another group of people that can be a good tool for evil are your personal drivers. You're literally putting your life in the hands of your domestic workers. Then the one that I know is number one on the list when it comes to domestic workers who tend to turn on their employees are security men. These are people whose job is to secure you. One change of mind and they will turn on you. Especially if they have to hold guns and wear uniforms. Boy, you gotta run a background check on the people you hire to protect you, cook your food, take your children to school. You can't just hire anybody and then think because it's the domestic work you can. Sometimes even if you're nice to these people, they understand the power that they have. I feel that Fred going to apply for a security man's job is one of those security agencies that will not send him to another place to go and work, and then he will now plot on how to rob that person he's hired to serve. You see this trope a lot. And I think the security agency he was applying for did their background check and got him good. If it's Nigeria, they would not have cared. That man would have been taken to another person's house to work, and he will strike again. Run away for another 2 years, get another job, strike again. I like how swift and how particular that the Kenyan police kept putting their interest in this case, regardless of how long ago it was. Anyhow, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notification button so whenever there is any new video, you'll be the first to get notified.